the screenshot that I did say on the presentation is something that I won't do. I'll just kind of record a quick tutorial on this technique so at least you guys can go back onto it. Alright, so moving on from task 2, from this class task, there's 5 images that I would upload and send you via Hangouts or through your emails, whichever way. You guys can choose from these 5 selection, and I want you to adapt it. I want you to add your own flavor to it, add your own genre, but I want these photography images to be converted into concept art. Alright, so I'll quickly go into Photoshop. You guys will just go onto your Photoshop. You want to open up a project, and once you've opened up your project, it will load up. And as soon as it loads up, you'll see that it has a lock on the right. All you need to do is to left click once, and that lock will unlock. Tap on the text layers or the text section here, so you can just rename your layers. So make sure that your work area is neat and tidy, so you do name each layer accordingly, and it's a bit neater so you can kind of track what is going on. So I've just named it BG, so BG is just universal for background. Then you need to think of what are you going to do to this image. What aspect are you going to change? You might want to zoom straight in, or you might want to just keep it at this length. So to zoom in again, just in case you have forgotten, it's Command plus button is to zoom in, or Control if you're using Windows. So Control minus button to zoom out. So where your numbers are, you just have the plus and your minus to zoom back in. Ideally, you still have this magnifying glass that you can click on. I can zoom in or out, so you can just literally hold on to it. You can scroll in or scroll out, so whichever one that you prefer. Then the first step, you want to create a new layer. So you have this icon at the bottom, which is your layer icon, and we just want to name that whatever. So I'll just name that block out, because I want to first block out a quick rough sketch of what I want to add or subtract from this image. So the first tool that I would always use is my lasso tool. So if I right click on this arrow at the bottom, you have a lasso tool, you have a polygonal lasso tool, you have a magnetic lasso tool. So you have these 3 options of lasso tools. So the first one that I will use is polygonal lasso tool. So if I'm drawing more human or like a man-made structure like a building, it has straight lines and sharp edges, so I'll use this tool. So if I just want to quickly click, left click, click again, because I want to make like a castle feel background, I'll quickly create like a castle silhouette. It doesn't have to be detailed at this point, we're just having a quick idea of the concept. Alright, so I have this lasso tool in my blocked out layer, so I'll just quickly fill this color with gray, just a gray a fill. So remember, the further away the image is from your perspective view, the lighter it does get, because that's how perspective is. The closer it is to perspective view, it gets darker. So at the edges here, you see that it gets darker. So I'll just quickly change the color of this one just to make it a lighter gray. It doesn't have to be too light, but also you want to create that illusion of perspective. I'm going to Control T to transform. I just want to move that just a little bit in, and just adjust that just a little bit, just slightly, move it over there. Control D to deselect your selected icon. And maybe on the right of it, I want to kind of add some rock features. So I'll go back to my lasso tool, and instead of using the middle polygonal lasso tool, I'll use my actual lasso tool. So this gives me an option to kind of draw some organic shapes. So I'll quickly create a new layer. So I'll quickly say rock BL, BL. So that's just a rock block out. So I know what it is. And I'll just click on it and I'll just quickly create something which looks like a rock feature just on the side of this building. I'll fill that out, so I'll click on G to go to my fill tool, or you can just select your paint bucket tool, which is on the left here. So what I want to just do is fill out that block, and since it looks like it's on the right, I might just change the color a little bit. Alright, so I've just changed it just a little bit, Control D to deselect. So now I have the basis. Obviously you guys will make a complete concept. So I already did kind of design a little bit of the concept, so I just created a bridge just using the lasso tool and connected it up, created some rock formations at the back, and I have my structure right behind it. So if I go back onto the internet, my reference image that I was using was a castle, so I want to create something similar to a castle. It doesn't have to be exact, but I want to create like that medieval gothic type of concept where the castle will be literally on the face cliff. Just see how that goes for now. So with this reference image, I know that I want to find some textures. So I know that that back building, I want to have like probably a brick face texture. So I'll find a brick face. This actually looks really nice, but it's not seamless, so it's going to cause some issues in terms of if I had to duplicate that. So I'm looking for something which is seamless. So what you can do is just type in brick hole seamless. So there might be some seamless images. So that means that it just connects a little bit easier or more smoother. Alright, so I'll probably just probably just save this. So I'll right click, you'll save your image, and what I'll do, I'll just copy it because I don't want to save it on my computer. So you'll save your image of your texture, go back onto Photoshop. Then you want to open up your saved image, you'll probably open up a new tab, you'll copy that out. I'll just click on Control V because I've already copied it. Then I have a texture at the back. Click on Control T to transform, and I want to just move this texture just to be somewhere over that building at the back that I've just designed. So I don't need this layer to be turned on, and I can just keep that in the background. So I'm just moving it around with Control T, which is a transform tool. That makes your life a little bit easier. Enter that out to confirm it. Now I want to merge this texture with this block out. So I want to make sure this texture can actually follow the outline of this block out here. So I want to merge the texture with the block out that I've just created. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to make sure that my textured, so I'll quickly rename that to texture. My textured layer is highlighted. I'm going to hold on Alt, and I'll move my cursor onto the line just between the text and the block out. Once I see that arrow has turned, so you have the finger there, moved onto it, it's turned onto the arrow. Left click. Now, since you've left clicked it, your texture is behind your blocked out layer. So if I click on Control T, I can actually move this texture around. I can shrink it. So what I'll probably do is just shrink it, because I know the further away that you get, the less detailed the texture would be. Control plus, just quickly zooming in, confirm that. I'm going to copy this texture layer again. Actually, I'm going to undo everything. What I'll probably copy this now, probably maybe twice. Control T to transform. I just want to move that on the other side so it's just duplicated. Confirm that. Go back to the two textures. Shift select the two. Command or Control E to merge the two together. Control T or Command T to transform, and I'll just quickly resize that again. Alright, well that looks a little bit better. I'll probably just duplicate that again, just one more time, or two more times, and just to make that a bit longer. So I'm just clicking Control T to select that layer, and I'm moving it to where I want it to be. So this is where the seamless texture comes in, because now I don't need to worry about it connecting seamlessly once I've copied it, because I've already had a seamless texture, so it makes my life so much easier. Shift select all the 3 layers, Command E to merge. If you prefer using your actual tab, what you can do is right click, merge down. You can click on merge down there. Alright, so now we'll start it again. We're going to shift select so we can combine these 2 layers. Let me just rename that texture again. I'm gonna alt click this selected layer so it can be merged with block out. So I'll move my cursor onto the line, click on it, and it's merged to the back. So I'll just quickly zoom out to see how that looks. Alright, that's looking a little bit interesting. Alright, so now I want to custom. I don't want to have my whole image look exactly the same as I don't want the whole block out to have texture, so I want to have a little bit more control of the texture that I put in. So the way that we're going to do that, we're going to create a layer mask, and we can add in textures where we want. So you have your text selected, your text layer selected. At the bottom you have your layer mask icon, which is this one here. It's a square with a circle in the middle. I'll click on that, and right next to it you have a white empty mask. So white means that you can see the texture. If I change that to black, I'll just quickly fill out the texture. So now it's all black. Yeah, I know that it's highlighted because it has this white border which is around it. So if I click on this one, it's highlighted on the texture, but if I click on the black, it's highlighted on the layer mask. So now that it's black, I know that the texture is still behind it, but I need to add in texture. So the way that I'll add in texture once it's black out, I'll go into my brush tool. So I'll just click my brush tool, B, shortcut key. Find a brush tool which is acceptable. I'll just use the airbrush just for now, just a soft brush. I'll change my opacity so I can have a little bit more control. Make sure your layer mask is selected. And you need to kind of, before you add your texture, you need to kind of figure out where the light source is coming from. So just for this example, I'll make sure that the light source is coming from this direction, coming down. So I'm just gonna just quickly draw the direction just because. So the light will probably come from this direction. Yeah, I should make that a more visible brush, but I think you get where I'm coming from. So that's a light source. All right. Select my texture layer. Make sure I've selected the layer mask. Zoom in a little bit. I know that the light is coming from here. Make my brush bigger with open brackets. Then I want to make sure I've selected white with my opacity, which is slightly low. So I'll slowly add in the texture. So as soon as the light is coming in there, you'll slowly see a little bit of the texture. So you'll probably see a little bit of texture there. So you guys will have more time to make this much more neater, but since this is just me showing you guys, I just want you guys to get the principle and the concept. So I'll just lower the opacity again, make the brush quite big, and just add more texture to it. Alright, so that's a good start. I still have my mask at the back, my blocked out mask. Now what you can do to just fix up the texture that you've added, we want our texture to match the environment. So we'll click on the texture layer. We want to adjust the levels or the hue all the saturation so this and texture can match the background here. So you selected the texture at the back, you go on to your images, adjustment. First thing you will click on is your levels. So you have this tab means that you're adding in dark, you're taking and you're adding your light. If you go onto the white one, then the middle tab is your grays. So what I'll do is make my grays a little bit gray, add and make it a little bit darker there. Just play around with it to see which setting best suits you. Alright, I'll leave that there. So that's my levels, I'll confirm that. Go back to image adjustment, and what I want to do is just take away some colors. So I'll go into my saturation and I'll make that a little bit less saturated. So you can almost, it goes with the flow. Alright, confirm that. Of course, you guys will have a little bit more time to sort that out. I'll let that be. Finish the first section. Depending on how the output is, I'll probably add a little bit of more a darker outline where my block out is, just to create that shadow. So I'll go back onto my block out layer, click on W, or you can go into your magic wand to select your image or your outline, your block out, and I'll just add in some black because that's where it could be more darker. So the more you practice this, the quicker you'll become, the more refined your image will be. So just be patient with yourself. Alright, you can play around with different brushes to give you different textures, different strokes. But I'll just leave that for now. I just know that that is a building at the back. I could do some more just to fix up the levels so this text can actually fit the background a little bit more. So actually, let me just quickly do that. Probably take off all the saturation. So I'll take it all the way down there. Yeah. Take that all the way down. Make that a little bit clear. Alright, so that's the building that we do have. Then I just have this rock formation at the bottom. So I'll go back. So we'll repeat the same technique. So go into Google, find some texture. So just say rock texture. Find an interesting formation, an interesting rock form that will go. So that's an interesting one for me. It's a bit complicated, but just so you guys can see the difference, you'll save it. Go back onto Photoshop. Make sure your texture is above your base. So this is my rock block out, and this is my reference, my rock reference. Move it above. This one will slightly change it a little bit, so we want to morph this image so you can fit that rock texture a little bit more. So click on transform, click on warp. Now you can just play around with it a little bit so it can be more organic. I'm not going to do too much. Alt, make sure your texture is on top. Alt, select to the cursor will transform, and the rock will actually appear at the back. Once you've done that, we'll add your layer mask again. Make sure that is black so you can have control of how much texture is on. Flood that color with black. Change into your brush tool, and you change your foreground color into white so you can have more control of you adding in the texture. I'm slowly adding in the texture now. Alright, texture has been added. Last thing I'll probably do is just adjust the level so it's my image is actually merging in with the landscape, the background landscape. So I'll make that quite dark actually. Bring that up just a bit. Alright, so you guys will have a little bit more time just to play around with it, but I'll just leave it as that. Um, go back onto my block art. I'll select that and I'll make that a little bit darker, more black. Alright. As much as I did say that the direction of the light is coming from this direction, um, this is behind the building, so I'm assuming that there will be a little bit darker on this side, and since there is texture, you'll have a bit of light coming on this side because it'll be darker when it's facing the building. Alright, so that's looking a little bit decent. Deselect that. Quickly select my magic wand and I'll probably edit that out just a little bit more, make that a little bit darker. Okay, so that's your block art or your photo bashing technique just as a block art to begin with. So obviously you'll have a little bit more control depending on your layout. So this is something I already created before, but it gives you a rough understanding of how to apply the technique itself. So I'll probably do the same thing for these pillars, add a little bit of concrete, obviously add a bit of windows for this one, add some concrete for the bridge path, or even maybe some logs or something. I don't know. I could build on it a little bit. So this is what I want you guys to do. So yeah.